the two-wheeled soap opera of the motorcycle world. A brand that doesn't just sell motorcycles, oh no, it sells emotions, drama, and apparently a lifetime subscription to nostalgia. Now, I suppose I sounded a little bit like a Ducati PR analyst or something right then, but it's kind of true. The 2024 Ducati Monster, a bike that for some diehard fans, well, it's less monster and more, well, mild-mannered gremlin. Why? Because it, gasp, doesn't have the iconic red trellis frame, of course. The trellis frame was like the Monster's DNA. You could spot it in a crowded parking lot, at a bike meet, or even in your rearview mirror. But now, well, it's been replaced by this sleek aluminum chassis, which, to be fair, is lighter, stiffer, and performs better. But try telling that to the folks crying, bawling into their espressos at every Ducati meetup. I've noticed this phenomenon over the last 35 years, and I've owned many Ducatis. I'm a huge Ducati fan. And it's not just the Monster. Oh no. Let's talk about the Panigale V4S superbike. Once hailed as the high priest of Ducati's sport bike religion. Yet, somewhere along the way, the high priests swapped out their sacred artifacts. Artifacts like the single-sided swingarm. Gone. The beloved Desmodronic engine. History. I've owned a V4S. I also own a Panigale V2. They're wonderful bikes. Why would they do such a thing? You'd think Ducati was committing some kind of heresy. Where's the single-sided swingarm, they cry. How will anyone see my $3,000 carbon fiber rear wheel now? Sacrilege. And then, of course, there's the trellis frame support group. I get it though. These design elements weren't just parts, they were Ducati's personality. The trellis frame was the bike's stylish leather jacket, the single-sided swing arm. It's perfectly tailored like an Armani suit. Now, some fans feel like Ducati swapped out all of that for an off-the-rack polo shirt. Sacrilege. Kind of like drinking a cappuccino after midday. Don't ever do that in Italy, they'll know you're a tourist. But here's the plot twist. Ducati doesn't care. Why don't they care? Well, because these new bikes are faster, lighter, more advanced, and sounding like cannoli at a Sunday market. While we're here debating frames and swing arms, Ducati's cashing in on folks who don't even know what Desmo means. They just know the bikes look. And they look fast and they sound bellissimo. So if you're an old, grumpy Ducatisti like me, it's really important that you realize that we're a dying breed. But hey, tradition dies hard, right? And if you're still mourning the trellis frame or the single-sided swing arm, don't worry. Ducati knows that. And that's why they keep the red paint job. Because nothing screams true Ducati heritage like making sure the bike's faster. The Ducati Monster is the cornerstone in a world of naked motorcycles. It's revered for its raw character, distinctive styling, and exhilarating performance. The Monster was born in 1993, and back then it was Ducati's answer to the growing demand for a versatile, urban-friendly bike that could appeal to a broader audience without compromising the brand's integrity and signature sporty and aggressive DNA. With its blend of minimalist design, trellis frame, and exposed engine, the Monster became an instant hit, a trendsetter. And it played a crucial role in popularizing the naked bike segment. Now, the visionary behind the Monster, Miguel Galusi, the brainchild of this Argentine-born designer. The Ducati Monster was initially envisioned as a bike that stripped away the unnecessary, leaving only the essential elements of what makes a motorcycle thrilling to ride. And Galusi famously once stated, all you need is a saddle, tank engine, 2 wheels, and handlebars. Now, this philosophy guided the decision of the first Monster, the M900, which utilized Ducati's existing components. It included a 904cc L-twin engine and the distinctive red trellis frame. Yep, that red trellis frame, which was derived from the 851 Superbike at the time. Galusi's approach was to create a motorcycle that celebrated mechanical beauty while being compact and versatile enough for both city streets and twisty back roads. The exposed frame and engine not only defined the Monster's aesthetic, but also showcased Ducati's engineering in a raw, visceral way. The M900 was an instant hit. It was praised for its combination of sporty attitude and handling, muscular design, and of course a potent engine. It also marked the beginning of a model line that would evolve significantly over the next 3 decades. So its evolution throughout the years, well, since its debut, the Monster has undergone numerous iterations and updates. Now, the 1990s, the early years, we saw the M900 that I mentioned earlier, and the first generations. This first Monster, it set the tone with its air-cooled 2-valve L-twin engine and simplistic minimalist design. Throughout the 90s, the range expanded to include smaller displacement models like the M600 and the M750, which made the Monster accessible to a broader range of riders. Now, despite some of these minor updates, the core design, which again was characterized by that red trellis frame, remained largely unchanged. In the 2000s, we saw sort of more refinement and some diversification, I suppose, because the early 2000s saw the introduction of fuel injection and the transition to more powerful engines. Ducati they began to diversify the Monster lineup as well. They introduced the S4, which featured a water-cooled 4-valve 916cc engine derived from the famous Ducati 916 Superbike. And that provided a higher performance alternative. The so-called S models also added higher quality components like Öhlins suspension and upgraded brakes. The mid-2000s brought the Monster 695 and later the Monster 696, which introduced a more modern look while retaining the classic lines. These models featured improvements in ergonomics, weight reduction, and updated electronics, such as more advanced fuel injection. In the 2010s, modernization and major changes continued to happen. The Monster 796 and the 1100 models continue to refine the platform, incorporating features like ride-by-wire throttle and ABS. The Monster 1200, which was introduced in 2014, marked a significant leap forward because it had the new 1198 Testastretta engine, improved electronics including traction control for the first time and riding modes, and a larger, more aggressive design. The era also saw the evolution of the Monster's visual identity with more sculptured fuel tanks, updates to the frame design. Ducati introduced the frameless design with the Monster 1200, where the engine itself became a stressed member of the chassis, which reduced weight and increased rigidity. However, this began to blur the iconic look that had always defined the Monster through the eyes of many Ducatisti. In 2021 was when we saw the real controversy with the new Monster and redefinition. Because in 2021, Ducati released a radically redesigned Monster, dropping the traditional Trellis frame in favor for an aluminum frame, which is derived from the Panigale Superbike. The decision to abandon the rear trellis frame, which had become synonymous with the Monster's identity, sparked significant debate amongst enthusiasts. Of course, Ducati argued that the change allowed for a lighter and more agile bike. The new frame is technically 60% lighter than the previous steel trellis, but many purists felt that a vital element of the Monster's soul had been lost. This new Monster, powered by a 937 Testastretta engine, featured modern electronics, including cornering ABS, traction control, and wheelie control. The design shift, I suppose, was intended to appeal to newer riders looking for a more friendly experience while still offering the performance and style that Ducati is known for. Despite the controversy, the updated Monster retained its spirit through a powerful L-twin engine, upright riding position, and minimalist styling. The controversy over the loss of the trellis frame is kind of one of those folklore things. The rear trellis frame is more than just a structural component. It was always a visual signature of the Ducati Monster, and it symbolized the brand's commitment to tradition, mechanical authenticity, and Italian design with flair. When Ducati removed the aluminum frame, the shift was met with a lot of mixed sort of reactions, myself included at first. I think traditionalists viewed the departure from a trellis as a betrayal of the Monster's original designer and heritage. And a lot of traditionalists feared that the bike had sacrificed its distinctiveness for modernity. Critics argued that the visual design, the visual impact of a trellis was such a cornerstone and a fundamental part of what had made the Monster instantly attractive, instantly recognizable, and its absence left the new model looking kind of like any other bike you might see out on the road, more generic you might say. Now, on the other hand, Ducati defended the decision, and they defended it by emphasizing the practical benefits that the new frame has. It's significantly lighter, and it contributes to a more compact and nimble motorcycle. I can tell you that my one is way more nimble than Ducati's Monsters I've had in the past. Additionally, it allowed Ducati to incorporate more advanced technology and handling. And these handling characteristics that would have been difficult to achieve with the previous generation, and especially with the traditional trellis, that design just was getting in the way of innovation. And I suppose at some point, all motorcycle brands deal with this. So, in my mind, the Ducati Monster has remained one of the most iconic motorcycles in the world. And it's inspired a whole category of naked sport bikes from various manufacturers. Its influence can be seen in everything from the Yamaha MT series to the Triumph Street Triple, all of which owe some debt to the Monster's original ethos of minimalist design and sporty performance. And I think that despite the changes, the Monster continues to be a cornerstone of Ducati's lineup. It attracts both new riders and seasoned enthusiasts. And it's this enduring appeal lies in its ability to blend performance and style in a package that still feels visceral and connected to the road. I think the debate over trellis frame's absence really just reflects the Monster's strong identity and the passionate following that it's cultivated over the decades. I also think that as the Monster continues to evolve, it's clear that Ducati aims to balance innovation with heritage. While the current model may not have the iconic trellis frame, its DNA remains rooted in Galussi's original vision, a motorcycle that celebrates simplicity, performance, and the pure joy of riding. So I'm going to take my new 30-year Anniversario Ducati Monster out for a quick spin. The bike that's ditched its past, embraced the future, and still manages to turn heads faster than a Desmo valve at 12,000 RPM.
I'm going to head out, take it for a short ride. Won't be a long, extensive review or anything. Just going to go for a little ride and we can have a chat. I'm going out on the wonderful Ducati Monster 937 30-year Anniversario edition, of which only 500 were made, and this is number 219. You are going to get my first few miles on the bike, because if you look at the odometer in front of me, it's 5 miles. This is not my first rodeo when it comes to the Monster, because the Monster, despite all the other fancy motorcycles there are from Ducati, this motorcycle, its origins and its current incarnation, is probably still my favorite Ducati ever, which is a big statement. But let me explain that a little bit. Well, it's no secret that I'm a Ducati fanboy, and up until the Monster was launched, Ducati had a reputation for being a little bit flaky in the reliability department, and it also had a reputation for being kind of the supermodel of motorcycles, but that business model wasn't exactly profitable, and they were almost out of business until the Monster was launched. And this naked motorcycle is the motorcycle that literally saved the company. And so that is one of the reasons I have a huge amount of respect for the Monster. The other reason is the 937 engine and the L-twin that's sitting below me right now has just always been, for me, just the classic twin cylinder expression of what it means to ride a Ducati. And there's been all sorts of incarnations of the L-twin over the years, and for old guys like me, maybe it pulls at the heartstrings a lot more than the new V4 Panigales and V4 Multistradas. Now, to be fair, I've owned a number of Multistradas as well. I've owned a V4 Panigale and a V4 Multistrada and a bunch of other Multistradas over the years. But my track bike is a V2 Panigale, which is another engine altogether. But it is a Ducati twin. Now I'm also wearing my Ducati Air jacket, which I always wear when I'm out. However, knock on wood, the battery is dead on the airbag, and so I am the all gear all the time guy, dicing with calamity. Well, I know a lot of you don't ride with airbags, but I do, and it's just, I suppose, a superstitious thing for me. I'm just going out for a short ride because I don't actually have a lot of time today. I have a lot of work going on. I have a day job. Kiwi Boto is 72 is not my day job, as much as I enjoy it. I also enjoy my other job, but I'm going to go down to one of my favourite urban locations to get a cup of coffee, maybe take a couple of photos, maybe find some good Mexican food. I am guessing this person in front of me is on the phone. I would almost guarantee it. You genuinely get a sense of when people are on the phone or not. But I could be wrong. It is cool being on a small bike again, you know, small-ish. I mean, it's still a 900cc motorcycle. But I am 6 foot tall, and I'm a bit on the chubby side right now, which is going to change over the winter. But you know, I've been riding my Africa Twin. Done some touring on that. I've been riding my Vespa around town, which surprisingly actually feels bigger than this because, you know, it's a step through. Now the Monster is not a flat-footing motorcycle. I'm riding on the balls of my feet. That's the way I recommend anyone ride a motorcycle like this. Sport bike. Sport touring bike not so much, although I tend to ride like this on a sport touring bike as well. Just it's kind of how I roll. Now this is a special bike because it is one of 500, and I, however, do not like to keep garage queens, so of course I'll break her in really gently. And if you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know that I tend to ride like a little old man on the street anyway. I save the speed for the track. Now, I actually had the SP version of this, but I didn't know the Anniversario was coming out. If I'd known it was coming out, of course, I would have bought this. So I had the Anniversario, and this came out, and I sold it. And of course, I had the SP, and the Anniversario came out, so I sold it after putting good miles into breaking it in. So now I'm going to have to break this one in, and it's fall here in Seattle, so not sure I really want to break it in the rain. Don't mind breaking my Honda in the rain though, or my adventure style bikes. So yeah, getting back to the history of the bike, man, so much history. You know, there's been the 696, 1100s. This is the 937. I had a 1100 S4R or R4S, I think, about 15 years ago, which was also in the same color scheme. It was also an Anniversario model, but in those days I was young and stupid, and well, my love affair with Ducati was sort of in its early stages, I suppose. The first Ducati I bought was in 2006, and so I didn't quite know how special that bike was. I'll put a picture up of it here somewhere as well. And I remember the guy that bought it came up from Oregon, from Portland, which is about a 3-hour drive from Seattle. And I was like, whoa, you came all the way up here to pick it up. He had this massive smile on his face, and now I know why, because it was a really special motorcycle, and I sold it. But I'm sure we all have stories like that, right? About motorcycles we wish we had never sold. Now, those of you who are watching this from other parts of the world are probably wondering why I'm not just kind of scooting up beside there. Well, the reason is that here, in the land of the free, specifically Seattle, where I can legally go and buy a firearm, which I have a firearm, but this is not about firearms, and I can legally go and buy pot, marijuana, and I can also legally buy mushrooms. I cannot, however, lane filter, or lane split, as some people call it, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, if I was on a bicycle, I could go up there. If I was on a stupid e-bike, I could go up there. But I can't on a motorcycle. So it's kind of one of those weird things about America. You know, it's just these weird kind of conflicting things about certain rights that you may or may not have in certain areas. I found it really hard to adjust not being able to lane filter when I first moved here, because I was so used to doing it back in New Zealand. And now the difference between when I was doing it in New Zealand and doing it now, of course, is that there are these things that people like to have in their hands called cell phones. Yeah, and they've changed it a little bit. Now they have things like Facebook and stuff on them, and all sorts of weird shit that you don't want to be looking at when you're riding. And as a result, a lot of us, we get rear-ended by those fuckers. And so it's even more important, I think, to be able to lane filter. Now, if you can't lane filter in your state, I always suggest that when you pull up beside or behind a car, that you do what I'm going to do in a little bit, which is don't be directly behind it. Also, make sure you check your rear mirrors before you decide to stop, and don't stay in neutral. Make sure you're in gear, so that if you do see someone on their phone about to rear end you, you have an escape route. So here's an example. So right now I'm in first gear, and rather than being right behind this car, I'm going to be right here. You could argue that Ducati invented the category of the modern naked sport bike. You could argue it. Some say the Triumph Speed Triple invented the category. Now they are definitely in the same category, but the Monster is by far outsold the Triumph Speed Triple, and I've owned a Speed Triple as well, and I really like that bike too. I think one day I'll do a podcast or a video on how many motorcycles I've owned, because I have definitely owned a lot. And what I realized about motorcycles is that motorcycles are not a practical purchase, not for me anyway. Motorcycles at one point were my only mode of transportation, and yeah, that was part of it, but for me, motorcycles are emotional purchases, and it's just like any other hobby that you put money into. And whether you're buying skis or a snowboard or a bicycle, whatever. And for me, test riding a motorcycle, which you don't always get to do these days before you buy one, for 20 minutes, is not enough time to find out if you really want it or not. And you can read all the reviews and all that sort of stuff, and people think you really like the bump. But you kind of need to own it for a while. So for me, I buy a bunch of motorcycles, and I sometimes sell them really quickly. And, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mess around with the suspension after this ride. I've got to set the sag. It does come with Öhlins on the front and the rear. I've got the front tyre PSI at 37, even though the manual says 40. I've got the rear at 40 because it's kind of cold. Generally, for a sporty, sort of more engaging ride, I'd have the tyre pressure a lot lower than that, probably 35 each. But that's a whole nother video, because all of that depends on road temperature, type of tyre you got, suspension setup, all those things. And that's a whole nother video. But I did talk to my mate Dave Moss about these things, and did record an interview of him not so long ago. So if you haven't seen that, you should check it out. Maybe if I remember, I'll put a link up here somewhere. Anyway, yeah, so I just tend to take motorcycles for extended test rides. That's how I roll. And if I sell a bike after only a couple of months or even a week, that's just because my extended test ride said, well, it's not for me. And sometimes I'll lose a little bit of money, but most of the time I've been lucky. I've got a good friend of mine here in Seattle, Tyson Moto, who I'll put a link up to, who owns a company called Redmond Used Motorcycles. Really good guy, knows his shit. And he just flicks them on for me, and I give him a commission, and we're good to go. every town needs a company like Redmond Used Motorcycles. There's no, I mean, look, yeah, could I make more if I sold it privately? Yeah, but do I have the time? No. What's that time worth to me? A lot. And you know, a dealer, just a run-of-the-mill dealer that sells new bikes, might sell it for you, but it's not going to be their priority. So a really great company that specialises in quality used motorcycles, like Tyson does, is always good. Fuck, I've been talking a lot. So how does it feel compared to my SP? Well, this is basically the same bike as the Monster SP 937. Just has a few more farkles on it. For example, it does have a few more carbon bits and pieces. It has Öhlins just like the SP has. It's obviously got a different paint job. It's that just the the classic tricolour Italian colours. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. Now I found that my SP, once she was broken in, it was just wonderful. It did take a little while to feel like the engine was sort of at one with me, or should I say just at one. But once it was great. Maybe I'll just put it into sport mode quickly, and if I can remember how to do that on the Ducati. You can also adjust the heated grips. You can see what I'm doing here, the heated grips. Put those on medium. The heated grips do not come standard, by the way. Now, that's another interesting thing they've changed. You can't actually change the engine mode while you're riding, which on a lot of Ducatis you are able to do. You certainly can on the Multistrada, but it would seem that you can't do it on the Monster. I forgot that. So you have to wait until you're pulled over or whatever, and then you can change the engine mode. I'm coming up to some stop here, so maybe if you're stopped in traffic it'll let you. We'll find out. Hold it in. Oh no, it won't. So you actually have to be properly stopped. Now there are some situations where I break the rules when it comes to lane filtering. And so this is one of them, although this person doesn't seem to want to get over. Or if it's like back-to-back traffic on the freeway and it's in the middle of summer and it's really hot, which is really hard and dangerous and all that stuff. If it's like literally like a parking lot on the freeway, I just go straight at the middle, and I don't do it too fast because the motorists here just aren't used to it, and I don't want to piss people off. So I don't want any aggro drivers coming at me, which has happened here. So this is Georgetown, this kind of a eclectic little neighborhood here in Seattle. It's literally like in the fly path for Boeing Field, which is a local airfield here. So I also rock the you'll notice the SW Motec bags. I really like SW Motec products a lot. Now this is a new place. So here she is. It's a 2024. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. It has the fancy wheels that the SP didn't have. The nice bronze wheels. So SW Motec bag just comes off like this, and you've got this ring here, which is a magnetic ring, and attaches like that. So what I'm curious about is I turn it off, turn it on again. It even shows you the number when it starts out, 219. Oh, there you go. So you have to turn on and off, and then you can swap between different modes. Now, sport, you see the ABS is at 2, traction controls at 3, wheelie controls at 2. With road, it's at 3. Oh yeah, so the traction control is quite a bit different. You'll notice it goes from 3 to 5. And then on wet mode, you'll see it's even higher. Okay, so time to head home. Just a quick little lunch break at this place called Kuma, which is a Vietnamese, Cambodian inspired place. Maybe I'll post a picture of what I ate, which was really good. Actually not, we've just been open a couple of weeks, so if you're in Seattle, check it out. Kuma. Good stuff. And yeah, just
Well, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the little tour of Seattle on my new Monster Anniversario. And as I said, it wasn't supposed to really be an in-depth review on this particular bike, but I will tell you that I'm a fan of just the simplicity of it. You saw that I was riding a lot around urban environments, having a lot of fun on it. But really the purpose of this video was really just to talk about the history of the Monster, where it's come, where we are today, and really just to finish up with a little ride on the latest incarnation. So I hope you enjoyed the video. This is not my night job. I have a day job. Any likes, subscribes, all that fun stuff is super helpful. I do put some effort into these videos, and on that note, I'd actually love feedback. Do you like my videos? Do they suck? Are they good? Are they not? Are they too long? Are they boring? Do I talk too much? All of that stuff. I've got a thick skin, so bring on the feedback. Until then, I'll see you later. Bye.